Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am Yantia Struthers, your neighborhood real estate professional here in Georgia, serving South Atlanta. And I have with me today a special co-host, Miss Barbara Winters, who is a mortgage lender and she works with Highland Mortgage. Hello, Miss Barbara.
Hello.
So basically, guys, today we're going to be tackling the down payment assistance programs and what you can do to see if you qualify for these programs. And we're going to talk a little bit about what they are, what programs Georgia has, and the requirements, guidelines, and just go over a little overview with you guys on what that looks like. So if you don't know what down payment assistance is, it's basically option to help you pay for your down payment costs, not your closing costs, but your down payment for your loan for your home if you're looking to buy a home. So these are government-backed programs, some state level, federal level, local level, depending on where you are. And some lenders are going to have specific programs within their own company. So it's good to know that. And it's also good to speak with the local lender because they are going to have more options for you with regards to these types of programs. Right, Barbara?
That is correct.
So versus going with like a national bank or some other lender that is not local to where you are interested in buying a property, it is very good to try to find you a local lender who is going to be more knowledgeable about these local down payment assistance programs. So what we're going to talk about today specifically is there are a few different programs that Georgia has. And Ms. Barbara, if you want to go ahead and start with the most popular one that Georgia has and talk a little bit about the requirements and guidelines for that program.
Okay. The most popular down payment assistance program that Georgia has is the Georgia Dream program. And that program allows you to be able to get a certain amount of funds to help with your loan. And it depends because there's several different programs through that actually option for the down payment assistance. So like if you're a teacher or a nurse or in that type of profession, you can get up to $12,500. And for other people, you can get up to 10,000. So it just depends. So there's there are guidelines, which tells us, what you qualify for, and we, compare that with your loan application. The thing about Georgia Dream is the one thing that I like about Georgia Dream is Georgia Dream, they set the rate.
So basically, she was saying there's different with the Georgia Dream, you can qualify for a minimum of $10,000 for the standard and up to 12,500.
Yes.
And I think that's for certain class of people, protectors, educators. There's different guidelines for them. They do have a bit of a larger fund for those people. So it really depends on that based on how much you're going to get. But you can go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. So that is the max that you can get. Sometimes you get less. It just depends on your loan amount. So, and one of the things about Georgia Dream too is, like I said, what I was saying was I like Georgia Dream because Georgia Dream sets the rate. And what does that mean? That means that sometimes their rate is a little bit less than what the lender has. So that's a good thing. Another thing about Georgia Dream, you have to keep in mind, they require you to have a 640 credit score and you cannot have more than $20,000 of assets, liquid assets in your account. Now, they don't look at your retirement account, but your assets that's liquid, they most definitely look at it. And if you have more than 20,000, you do not qualify for that program. Another thing about Georgia Dream, you must receive like an approved eligible. They do not do manual underwrites. So let's be clear, you must, even though you may have a 640, sometimes if the automated underwriting system does not approve you, you will not qualify for Georgia Dream. So that's important to know, very important. In Georgia Dream, they look at an AMI, so it depends on what county that you are in to cap your income limit. They count everybody's income in that household, even if they're not on the loan. So they're going to look at if you have children that work, if you have teenage children that work stop, they look at all of that income, and all of that income must be submitted to them. Another thing about Georgia Dream too is they want 3 years of work of W-2s and tax returns, and they look at the last 3 years. So that's important to know too, so that you're better prepared. So sometimes, down payment assistance, because they are giving you money, they are more stringent, and they will, require more, information from you.
Right. And that's a very good point to point out with down payment assistance there. like we said, government backed. And so there are guidelines that you must follow. And 640 credit score is obviously a little bit higher than what your lender may require for just a traditional loan with no down payment assistance. So this may not be the best option for you, with that requirement. And also keep in mind, some of these down payment assistance programs are going to have longer approval times. It's the funding is not just endless. It does run out at a certain point in time in the year. So these are all things that you're going to have to make sure you are informed about when you're inquiring about down payment assistance. Make sure you get all the information so that you can make the best decision as to whether or not you need to apply for down payment assistance, because there's also repayment guidelines for some of these, correct?
Yes, there's repayment guidelines, not so much for Georgia Dream. Georgia Dream, they will forgive that. They will forgive the loan. You will have to have it in place for 5 years. So if you sell before then, you may be obligated to repay some of that money back.
All right. Very good to know. So if you are thinking of, if this is not a true long-term situation, or if you move a lot with work and could be out of your home, in the next 5 years, then you'll be required with the Georgia Dream down payment assistance to pay that back.
And that's with all programs. All programs, they have guidelines, and let me remind you, their guidelines constantly change too. So during that process, it's always important to just ask the lender, how long am I obligated to be in the house? Will I have to repay it back? Guidelines, right. They update guidelines all the time. So nothing is really written in stone, but this is how it's showing right now. And also to just moving along, there are other programs where some of them are non-repayable. But what I find with the non-repayable, it's not impossible to get approved, mm-hmm. but it's more difficult. Mm-hmm. So and sometimes they only offer like 3.5% of the purchase price. Unlike like Georgia Dream 5% or the 10,000 or something like that. So just keep that in mind. And also some of these down payment assistance, such as Georgia Dream, they have a maximum DTI. If your credit score is not over 700, Georgia Dream max you to 45% debt to income ratio. So that's very important too. So if you have a high debt to income ratio, you're not going to qualify, especially if your credit score is not over 700. Now, if it's over 700, they will let the automated underwriting system, determine if you're approved or not. So just keep that in mind.
That's very good information. So again, a stipulation in place that, with the DTI that, whereas if you were getting just along with no DPA, you may not have those requirements for your DTI. So, is this the best situation for you? That is for you and your lender to determine. And so that pretty much is the gist of the Georgia Dream. And so next we have, what else? What's the other one you have for us?
We have Arrive. Arrive requires you to at least have at least a 600 credit score, right?
Okay.
So it's a little bit more, flexible, but they have one for 3.5% and one for 5% that's repayable. And so you have to still qualify, with that monthly payment of that second. It's going to be recorded on your title, so just keep that in mind. And I believe that Arrive is, 10 years. If it's not 10 years, it's 5 years that it has to be in place. So, you really have to think about that and always double check with your lenders. I don't mind, going into the guidelines just to double check to say, look, this is going to be in place for this long, because that's very important when you get ready to sell. Right. We have, and their guidelines is a little bit more flexible. They, tend to go with the AUS system, which is the automated underwriting system. So,
what system did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Automated underwriting system.
Okay.
So that's what we call, when you were being run through FHA, convention, Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae. We call it an automated underwriting system. And it goes through an automated underwriting system. It takes everything that you have put on your application and we have verified, and it assesses the risk. And it runs through. And what you would be surprised at is sometimes when you don't have the down payment assistance, you would get approved. But when you add the down payment assistance, sometimes it doesn't approve you. It just depends because it's looking at risk. So, what I mean by that, and this not to discourage you, but it's just to let you know, like you may say, oh, I had an approval, but then, they took the approval away. Down payment assistance is a risk because what the system is showing is that you have not really contributed anything into the transaction. backtracking. Georgia Dream requires you to put at least $1,000 into their transaction. But even so, still, if the seller is paying all your closing costs and Georgia Dream is giving you your down payment, sometimes the system looks at the overall risk and say, mm, what they're trying to see is your ability to repay this loan, and will you walk away?
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the data shows that a lot of people, not all, so I want to be clear, not all, and I'm not trying to discourage anyone from going after the down payment assistance, but just understand, sometimes it's harder to get approved because what it has shown is that people will walk away when they have not vested anything into the property. Most of the
Right.
time, people have their own capital and they put that money down, they're going to fight harder to keep that because they know what it took to get in that house. And
Right.
it was their sweat equity that, put them in there. So,
Right.
but again, those programs are there to help you. This is not to discourage you, but I'm just saying, sometimes, your lender is fighting hard, to get that approval for you because they see
Mhm.
them.
Right. And that's very good information. But having some skin in the game is also important. So that, obviously they can see if you are serious about this purchase and the longevity of the loan. So very good. So with the Arrive, like you said, it's a lower credit score requirement,
Mhm.
which is at 600. And then also, is this something specific to Highland Mortgage, or is this program available with other lenders?
No, it's available with other lenders, but other lenders may not be signed up, for it. So
Okay.
each lender, they are signed up with different down payment assistance programs. So
Hmm.
you may go to another lender, they may have, another program.
Right.
Um, One of the other programs that I know will be coming up, and I believe it comes up like around March, is the Federal Home Loan Bank. And that money goes, when I tell you it goes fast, it goes really fast because it's $20,000. They're giving you $20,000, to
Hmm.
help put down on a home. Otherwise, most people wouldn't qualify. There is an AMI limit, so that's the average, income limit. And we look at the county. We see, we look those, numbers up to see if you qualify. We're always looking at household income. All the people, FHLB is another one that looks at everybody income that's in their household. They have you sign things to say that, you verify that no one else lives in that house if that's what you're putting on that application. It's very stringent because, again, these monies are intended to help people who are really in need.
Right. Okay. Um, Sounds good. So we have two that we've discussed today. There's also some 100% financing options available, and that is just depending on when they open up throughout the year. And so I think right now we are not at a place to offer that at this time, but there are some 100% options. We're going to talk a little bit about USDA, which is an alternative if you are looking to do down payment assistance and essentially shopping around in a rural area. This is
Mhm.
an option for you to consider. So, there's no down payments. The interest rates are pretty good. And so, Mrs. Barber, can you explain to us the USDA program and what that looks like?
Okay, so the USDA program, it goes through a system, another automated underwriting system is called GUS. And it actually looks, when you look up a property, it lets you know if that property is in USDA area. And if it is, you need a 640 credit score. The system, the automated system will determine your DTI. A lot of times your DTI is limited to, again, 45% because, again, they want you to win. So when you're looking at the lower DTI, they're not trying to put you in a position to set you up to fail. They're just saying, okay, this is what it is. But the great thing about USDA is that the income limit is a lot higher. So, you still have to pull up the county. You have to say, okay, what's the AMI in that area? And that, a lot of times it's like from what, if you have 1 to 4 people, in the household, that can go up to 115,000. Unlike in some of the other cases, it limits you at 80,000. So sometimes, that's a benefit, it's a good thing. So that's
Mhm.
the one thing. And then if you have 5 to 8 people, it even go higher than that. I think it goes up to like 159,000 or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's higher. So,
Mhm.
those are all good things, because again, they're looking at everybody income that's in that household. They
Mhm.
want to make sure that they're helping the right people get in these homes, and they want you to be successful.
Right. So that's another down payment assistance option. If you don't have something else in your area that you qualify for, that's another avenue for you to go down with your lender once you speak to the lender, kind of let them know that you are interested in down payment assistance, and then they can let you know what you qualify for based on your income, your credit score, and the area that you live in. And then, like she was mentioning, there are stipulations with DTI. So again, it's going to be specific to each buyer what program you may or may not qualify for, but it's good to know what's available. And, like I said, speaking with the local lender that can help you navigate what programs are available in your area.
I'm sorry. And remember, they count all income, overtime, bonuses, everything is included in those numbers. They're not just looking at your base. They're looking at how much money you are making, how much money, do you gross, in that household. So
In the
just keep that.
household. Right. Okay. So, basically, the takeaway here is you don't need, a ton of money and a lot of savings necessarily to purchase a home. There are options for you that are available in your state, your county, and it is best to speak with a lender who can help you navigate that so that you can see what options are available to you. Remember to ask lots of questions, and especially as it pertains to repayment, and guidelines on resale, because you don't want to get yourself in a situation where you've received this assistance and, you now have to pay it back, or, worse. So that is pretty much it for down payment assistance today. And so if you are looking to buy a home in 2026, we are urging you to contact a lender that is local and a realtor that can assist you, myself, and you'll be on your road to home ownership. So anything in closing, Ms. Barber?
Now, just always, make sure that your lender has checked everything, with those down payment assistance. Because, there is one thing. One thing is all of the down payment assistance require you to take a home buyer educational course. And that is, to help you, to get you ready, to be able to manage a home. And another thing with down payment assistance, you must be a first time home buyer.
Okay. So yes, two things we forgot to mention. So one being the education courses, and the other is first time home buyer, which, that can be someone who hasn't purchased a home in 3 years. So you then qualify again as a first time home buyer. So thank you for reminding me of that. And so listen, if you are interested in finding out whether you qualify for down payment assistance or USDA, reach out to myself or Ms. Barbara so that we can get you and your questions answered. All right.